record today. All right. Hello, ladies. So super excited about this conversation. I'm here with the beautiful and talented Judy Coley-Montalvo. So we are gonna just have a conversation, and we're just very excited that we just get to create these moments and just have these moments of like, hey, you're not alone. This is what we're going through. This is life as a woman, life as a servant of God, life as a wife, mother, single woman, career woman. So definitely it's conversations that we just need to have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's really important. And as you get older too, you realize it is so important to have friendships that hold you accountable, right? And um, it kind of goes with our theme, right, of toxic friendships or toxic people and relationships in our lives. But having a healthy relationship can be someone that you go to, but it shouldn't be someone that it's just a one-way conversation in the sense of you're always venting, right? And they're just enabling you to, woe is me, or my life is miserable, or, you're you're complaining about your relationship with your spouse or your partner or your husband or your job, right? Like, the healthiest relationships are those that will, yes, listen to you and be there for you, but also tell you you're wrong. Like, I love you, but I gotta say, I don't agree, or you're not doing things the right way. So Liz Marie has been a part of that relationship, healthy relationship for me and my sister Lisette, which a lot of you guys know. My sister Lisette is probably my healthiest relationship because she's very quick to say,
you gotta have some salad, right? You have to have some type of same friend.
Yeah, because my sister, she'll be like, stop you right there, you ain't right, I don't care what else you got to say.
Girl, she keeps it like real 100%. I will be like just pouring my little heart out to her, and she'd be like, well, didn't you say that this is the problem? So you are the problem, Liz.
I put your own words in your mouth. Be like, dang, I did say that.
She's like, she's so real, so transparent. And it's so needed, like friendships that keep you on check. Definitely, like, because sometimes we want to mass things. And by the way, I just love how we just jumped into the hardcore stuff. This is the friends that count.
It's so true.
Take notes.
We're starting now. We take advantage.
This is the moment. Welcome to the conversation.
Yes.
But definitely, like, you just need friends that just keep it real. I feel like in our last conversation we touched on this, like, there is so much glitter, and so much like making things seem something that they are not, and you need friends that can just cut through the mud, cut through the ugly, and be like, hey, this is the real deal. The change starts with you.
Yes. And it's really important. It's why it's important to have Christian friends that are really well versed in the Bible, right? I grew up in the church my whole life, but I will be the first to admit, like, I don't know the Bible as well as I should, and nor will we ever really feel like there's always something to learn from the Bible, right? But when my sister, especially Lisette, like, she knows the Bible very well, so even if I come in, I'm like, no, but I'm right because of this and that. Like, I know you're trying to check me, and she'll be like, well, let's see what it says in First Corinthians, right? And I'm like, dang, you can't argue with that, right? Like, you can't. And so it's so important to have real friends, but also real friends that are faith-based or Christian, who can really give you a solid word and a solid foundation. And so this kind of is a good segue into the theme for today, which is toxic relationships in our lives, right?
Yeah.
And it's so funny, right? Because what Liz Marie does is she'll give you a topic, that's on her heart, but then she's like, that's it. There's no direction. It's whatever God feels, or whatever's on your heart.
Look, it's free fall. Just let it flow.
Yeah, it's very organic. Because even when she told me, my sister Lisette was like, "Oh, I was thinking you could do this and that," and I was like, "No, no," because I'm naturally thinking of like this. Like when you told me that, I thought of, well, there are. I've had many toxic relationships, but there's 4 different types.
Me too.
Yeah, there's 4 different types that I think of, right? We all been there.
Me too.
We could have toxic friendships. We could have toxic family members or family relationships, familial relationships. We could have toxic partners, girlfriend, boyfriend, spouses. And then we could have toxic relationships in the workforce. And you know what? We could even have toxic relationships at church. But I didn't think about that one until now. Right. I'm having like a aha moment.
It could be anywhere, right? It's just like you can have all this type of like just negativity around you. And it could be anywhere.
And a lot of times, right? You got the Holy Spirit, or some people will say, your conscience. I always think my conscience is just the Holy Spirit speaking to me, but you just know. So, I mean, talking about toxic friendships, I wanted to break into that first. So, there's a Bible verse in, let me just make sure. It says, I believe Romans 16:17-8. So
let me look it up.
Says, keep a sharp eye out for those who take bits and pieces of the teaching that you learned and then use them to make trouble. Give these people a wide berth. They have no intention of living for our Master Christ. They're only in this for what they can get out of it and aren't above using sweet talk and dupe unsuspecting innocents, right?
Ooh, girl, that is the epitome of toxicity right there.
Toxicity, right? and it's so funny, right? Because we were talking about having good friends, but even good Christian friends. Some people, like I know a lot of people who don't believe in God, like atheists, who will learn the Bible not to keep their hearts open, right, to have a relationship with God. They will read this Bible to be able to argue back and say, this isn't real, or right. And so when I read that sweet talk, right, like it could be interpreted in so different ways, but you have to be so careful with those you surround yourself with, because when you're in high school and college, right, people are wanting to drink, right, and party, and even they're starting to get into sexual relationships, right, and people are just sweet talking you all around, saying like, it's not a big deal, like everyone's doing it, a couple drinks don't really matter, they're not going to do nothing to you, or hey, you and your boyfriend have been dating for 4 years, like he ain't gonna stick around if you don't do something. Right? They want to sweet talk you. And it's like, yes, I do. I love them, but like, I also know what I believe in. Right. And I know I want to save myself until marriage, but then people want to tell you and sweet talk you and tell you all these different things, but they're not looking out for you. They're not looking out for you. Right. When you're in that age, especially, you're blinded by all of that stuff, the peer pressure, because, I've been around a bunch of people that, whether they party, drugs, right, drinking, get into sexual relationships before marriage, right? Even if that person is the person that you marry down the road, having sexual intercourse before being married will negatively affect your marriage life.
Ooh, okay, girl, and that's like, that you just said it. I just like the how you use sweet talk, because when I think about like sweet talk, I always think about candy. And I think about like a key in a candy store. There is all these different delicious candy. And like
Yes.
if you consume these
Your
candies,
flesh wants it all, girl.
yes, if you just consume them along the road, it might not be that day, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be a week or a month from the day of like engorging in those in Candyland, but a year or two from now, you will have cavities.
Those thighs are going to be hard to get rid of.
Yes. And they're going to be painful. I had a root canal. That stuff was no joke. And the dentist, he wasn't nice. He was like, nobody told you to eat all this candy. I was like, I was crying, girl. So, I mean, the same way, that sweet talk that like, yo, just do it. Like,
it's not a big deal.
It's nothing, no big deal. You know, a phrase that I use is like no pasa nada. Just go for it, no pasa nada.
It's not true. Always consequences. And you know what? Even if there's no consequences on this earth, there's consequences on Judgment Day, right?
Yes,
but
there is.
We all know that's going to happen. But let me tell you, I can almost guarantee there's consequences on this earth, because I've seen people who are high school sweethearts and they get married, and you know they've had relations like that before, and it really just ruins the purity of being able to save yourself up until that point, right? Your wedding night ain't nothing special. You know what I mean? Lucas, I'm sorry. Here we go. I'm a mother trying to have all right, Luke, please go to Tata. Go to Tata.
Live with kids.
We live.
Look, live with kids. Single ladies, remember, this is the season to just mature in those areas, because it's 24/7 job.
Because you know what? Part of that consequence might be you might, have a little kid a little earlier than you're ready. So, I mean, there's a lot.
They're gonna need you. They're gonna need you all the time.
Yes. I also wanted to touch too, because I know that even watching like pornography. Oh my gosh, I can't say it. Thank you. That's something that you hear a lot with men, but I know even sometimes women really dab into that, right? And that is there's a consequence to that too, right? Because you get an image or a thought in your mind, or a picture in your mind of what sex may be like. And y'all, sex is different for everybody, but like it ain't that. I'm gonna tell you right now.
It ain't that, girl. Don't get too excited.
Just like the movies of action ain't real, like that's not real either. And so, you might have friends that might be like, it's not a big deal. I've seen that, or blah, blah, blah. It leaves marks in your mind, in your heart, right? In your relationships. And it really just, it hurts. And it sticks around for a long time. And so
it really does. It does become a struggle. I mean, for me, I have never been into pornography, but like a door that I opened to the devil was like, I have always been a reader. I grew up in a family of readers. My mom, my dad, they are big readers. Up to this day, my mom will read like 2 books in a week. I'm like, woman, I don't know how you do it.
I don't know.
But I was a big reader, and like a way that I opened the door to sexual toxicity was through books. Yes. I started reading all these like romance novels.
Like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, girl, that stuff is just like, might as well be called pornography on pages. It's like reading pornography. Yeah. And I always justify it as like, I just like romance and I like reading.
And people are like, that's fine. You're not looking at pictures.
Right. There is no picture, but there was my mind, my imagination, and like it became like a battle long. I mean, I'm not talking about 2 years or 5 years. It became a 10+ years battle of having these thoughts and having to take them to the obedience of God, because they were creating so much damage in my personal life. And it leads you to, it's always that, you know, like I just love using these metaphors of life, of like, on one of our vacation, I went with my sister. We went to the beach down in Florida, and the water was cold. It was beautiful, but the water was cold. And I remember us like tiptoeing to the edge and like going like, oh, the water is cold. And then we would tiptoe a little bit more into the water, and we were like, oh, the water is cold right now. And then we were like completely submerged in the water, right? Our legs were wet. And that's the same thing for like with toxicity. It's like, oh, I don't like it, let me run away from it. But then it becomes that sweet talk, and that sweet talk is even sweeter the next time. And you are like, okay, let me run into it. You are completely submerged into toxic habits.
Yes.
And you know, they just consume you. They consume your relationship with others. They consume you with so much shame. I dealt with so much shame in my personal life. So much shame. I was embarrassed of myself. I hated parts of myself. And that's what toxicity does. When you open that door to the devil, whatever whatever platform you might be using, it might be books, it might be actual pornographic videos, it might be, you know, like sex toys, and you know, different things.
There's so much,
you know, is you are letting toxicity slowly consume you.
And it look, it's not just stuff we experience in high school, college, when it comes to, you know, partying and being starting to dabble into considering having a sex life, right? I mean, toxic friendships can come in all different shapes and forms. So, like, for instance, you know, I'm married for 10 years almost. And thank you. But toxic friendships can also be friendships that maybe push or put a wedge between me and my husband, right? Which that's unbiblical, right? Where maybe I do go to a friend. I mean, being married is hard, y'all. Like having a relationship with anyone is hard. Now you're married to someone, right? This is a long-term relationship. You're two totally different people, two totally different personalities. Being married is hard. And so, right, it's good to have that friendship to vent to and keep you in check, or, you know, just hear you out. But, you know, I've had previous relationships where it is just, oh yeah, you know what, girl, I wouldn't stand that. I wouldn't stick around for that. That ain't right. Or, you know, you need to put them in their place and do this and that, right? Where it's like, you're not just listening to me and then maybe speaking a positive word of like, you know what, you got to love him anyways, because that's how Jesus loved the church, right? You got to sacrifice and put your life down for him and serve him regardless, right? Because that's what the Bible says, that you got to love them even when it's hard. Right. And let God deal with them and their heart. Right. But you have to even be careful of those relationships that are like, you know, I don't think you should stick around for that. That ain't right. Right. Now, obviously there's a line, right? If there's like a physical, you know, abuse or something like that.
Yes. Any type of abuse, ladies.
Like
physical,
that's
emotional.
Right, mental,
sexual, any type of abuse, mental.
Yeah, there's a line, and it is biblical also that, you know, those, like, that's written in the Bible, like that's understood, right? But I'm talking about just stuff that, like, your
general
petty stuff,
disagreements,
right? Like, why didn't you put the dishes away? Or like, you know, putting my clothes away is part of the laundry too, right? Like, it's just really silly stuff, right? But you have to be careful for those relationships, or even relationships that, maybe it's someone of the opposite sex, right? Where like maybe you dated for 2 weeks in high school, but y'all didn't like each other. So like, it's really nothing, but you became best friends, right?
Right.
We all have some friends like that, but
Right.
you have to be careful that you don't start dabbling into, oh, I kind of like talking to this person a lot more, right? Or I like spending more time, or I'm starting to see him in a different light, right? I think I might
Right.
care for them more. Those are the things, ladies, that you need to guard your heart, because although the person might be nice and they might want the best for you and they love you, right? Care for you.
Right.
If it's something that puts a wedge between you and your husband, or that's going to make you fall in sin, that's a toxic relationship, and you need to
Right.
remove that from your life.
Right. No, I definitely agree. And you said it, the key point here is if it's gonna bring a wedge into your relationship with God, and also to the things that He has established. Like, we know that God has established the family union. A marriage between a man and a woman, He has established that. He has He supports that. So everything that goes against God's design and against
Yes.
God's will for your life, you need to label that as toxicity. And the reason why I say label is because a lot of times we don't call things by their name. We
Right.
like, oh, that friend is just like that. That's how she is. Or, this situation is just how it is. I do this because it's part of my personality. I make these choices because, hey, I'm a woman, I'm single, it's better than having sex, right? So we kind of like, we have come into habits of like masking things, like not calling it by their name, not identifying them as the root of the problem.
Yeah.
So and I like the word toxicity because it is toxic.
It's toxic.
Toxic means that at the end of the day, it will kill you. Not
It
that
moves
it might
you further
kill
away
you.
from God.
Yes, it will kill you. You will become in this coma state where you just like can't wake up from it if you don't cut it out.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, listen, guys, I've had a friendship that I cherish this person, love them to death. And they genuinely wanted the best for me. Right.
Yeah.
And nothing happened, thankfully, but I started to realize, like, I'm getting a little bit too close to this person. Right. Didn't get to a point where I saw them in a different light or anything like that. But I realized, you know what, I'm going to have to keep a distance here, a healthy distance, right? Because you have to be able to know yourself enough, or even know your spouse. Like maybe it's something that your spouse or your boyfriend like doesn't feel comfortable with, right? I mean, and you need to respect that. You do, and so sometimes it's not an easy relationship to cut off, right? If someone's physically, emotionally abusing you, you're like, this is a no-brainer. And sometimes it's not a no-brainer. People struggle with that too. But you know what I mean? Like, it's not so obvious, like, this isn't good, I gotta walk away. If it's a great relationship, but it's causing friction over here, it's very hard. It's very hard to walk away. But for the sake of your faith, for the sake of your current relationship, your health, you gotta make that decision.
That is true. And like I think it's good to go back to that point of sweet talking, because like that's the thing with toxicity. It doesn't start like so obvious. Like, it's just so sweet in the beginning. It's like so sweet. It's meant to be.
Yes.
It makes sense. It makes us feel good. It gives us all those feel good bubbles and like chemicals, like it just makes us feel good. But one of the tough things about just being human and then being a Christian is that we cannot always go by the feel
The
good.
flesh.
It's like you were saying, it's like looking at those warning signs. I want to say, like in my personal stories, like sometimes I have red flags waving in my face, but I just like, they like, girl,
Girl,
I'm
I
like,
can't wave these anymore.
I'm like, and it's like, God is like, girl, if you don't see this, I don't know what's wrong with your vision. But the thing is, I have become addicted to the sweetness of this
Yes.
toxicity. And that sweetness is what we like hold on to. And we like tell ourselves like, okay, but there is this sweetness to it. So it validates the toxic part of it. And like I feel like that is the struggle for a lot of us, like a lot of us girls, women, that we can't make that final cut because we are so addicted to the sweetness of the toxic relationship.
You see that the most with people who are in a relationship. So going from friendships to partners or spouses, right? I mean, and the thing we think of the most is a physical abuse, right? And people still struggle from walking away from that, even though, like, I mean, it's a huge red flag, guys. Like, physical abuse is not acceptable. That is 100% a toxic relationship. But even if it's not just physical, I mean, talk about sweet talk. I mean, men, women, I mean, they can manipulate you with the things they say, right? Oh, I love you, like I care for you. But then the next thing, they're saying things that mentally are making you believe other things about, negative things about yourself, that you're not worth anything, that your value is in the dirt, right? And so that is just as important and just as much of a red flag than a physical abuse, right? I mean, if anything, it's more because it's so detrimental, right? Like, what is it? Skin and bones. There's like a saying that like words, like, your bones and all those things heal, but like words, like those things hurt. I mean,
right.
Those things hurt. We hold on to them for a really long time. Some people can't even really shake that. And so our mind is a very powerful tool, but we're also very vulnerable. So anything that's physical, mental, spiritual abuse happens too, right? Where oh, where's your God now, or what would your God think if they knew? People say that stuff all the time, and they're wrong. But
all the time,
you have to protect yourself.
Correct. And if you are a girl or a woman that find themselves in an abusive relationship, where you're getting mental, physical, sexually abused, seek out help. Tell somebody. The biggest lie is that you gotta keep it to yourself. So
reach out to us. We'll talk to you.
Somebody. There are people that are willing to help you. So don't stay in any relationship where you are being put down, you are being abused and cast to the side. That is not what God said when we are supposed to be in a relationship. When God designed the relationship, one thing that He employs to the men is like, treat your bride as Christ treats the church. That is with the uttermost respect, that is with dignity, that is with love, and providing her with security. And the same thing vice versa. If you're the person that is abusing you is female, that is not God's intent for your life. So we do take this minute to tell you there is help out there. Call somebody, reach out to somebody. There are people that are willing to help you.
Yes. I mean, I there's a book. Let me see. Actually, I have it in my bookshop. It's called Wife After God. Now, I bought this book. I was in a not a great place in my marriage. You know, we all go marriages like this.
Yes.
And I was like, I got this book, and I'm like, this book is going to reinforce that I am right, and it's going to be a devotional, and it's going to uplift me. And all it did was smack me in the face every page and tell me how wrong I was in my relationship. Because ladies, we are supposed to lay our life down for our husband. We are a supporting role. We bring lots of wisdom into the relationship as well. But it's supposed to be reciprocated, right? You know, we don't just serve, and then just get treated like dirt as well, right? Our value, we have value. We are important into this relationship. We have a specific role in our relationship, ladies. And so you should hold that with your head high, right? With the crown, straighten that crown out, knowing like, you know, yes, there's bumps in your relationship and things get hard. But at the same time, you know, when you have someone that's there with you to work through it, but, you know, respects you and treats you well and appreciates the things that you do, you know, that is marriage. And you guys are working. The closer you get, the closer you get to God, the closer you get to each other. And so,
oh, that was good.
I can't make that up. Come on, girl. I can't even make that up.
It's the closer you get to God.
You get close to God.
The closer you get to each other. I love that. And like, I you know, I want to just do a little bit sideways and compare what you said. We just today's message towards women, you know, in today's society, right, there is two big voices. There is the voice of like, you know, God has designed the woman for this role and purpose. Like, we are to submit ourselves to our husband. And that is, for a lot of women, that is such a hard thing to take.
It's hard for me, especially a Latina woman. Woo!
You know, it is difficult. I'm single. I'm not in a relationship right now, but just hearing that word, like submit myself to a man, is hard. And and I say all this because nowadays, like, you have this voice of like, this is the teaching of the Bible. We are called to submit to our husbands, who are the head of the household. And don't be fooled. Our husbands are called to submit to Christ, which is like even greater responsibility, because their commander-in-chief is Jesus, is God. God is going to be asking them, how did they treat us? How they were leaders in their households. So don't think that you know, they don't have a responsibility.
They have the utmost responsibility.
Right, they do. But then there is this also side, this other side that is like, everything is equal. You are just like your husband. You can do things just like your husband.
That's the woke culture.
Right, that's the woke culture, right? Like, oh, you so woke. But here we are believing this as Christian women and Christian girls, and it's total opposite of the gospel. It's actually toxic.
Yes.
What? I mean, hey, let's have the conversation.
Like, it's hard, y'all. I mean, look, listen, I have a career, right? I mean, in the Bible, the wife is home, right? Like the husband is a provider, wife is home. I remember when my husband, who was my fiance at the time, he made a comment, and he was like, you know, my goal in life is to work hard and work enough, make enough so that you don't have to work. And if you want to be home and you be home with the kids. Ladies, I got offended. Like, in hindsight, I'm like, man, I was really dumb. But like, I was so offended. Like, oh, hell no, I ain't staying home. I am working. I'm going to have a career. You know, you're not going to control me. And he was so confused. Like, you know, I'm just telling you, I want to give you the ability to stay home. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that would be something you'd always want. now that I have kids, and I do have a career, and it's been very successful, thank God. But it creates this tension,
Mm,
not created by my husband, by the way. He is
mm,
100% supportive. Like, honey, you go make the money, go ahead, be my sugar mama, but you're also a great mom, right? But I struggle, right? Because I
mm,
don't have the energy to be the mom that I always want to be. And
mm.
even if I wasn't working, I probably would never have the energy to be the mom that I
Right.
always want to
You
be.
have a 1 year old
Yeah.
and what?
A 4 year old and a 1 year old.
Lucas is 4.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? Like, I'm busy all day. I'm busy all day. And then I get off work and I go straight to mom mode. And he hasn't seen me all day. He wants to play, but now I got dishes too. And now I got to do dinner. And no one's been able to take care of the house all day because we both are
Right.
working. And so, you know, all of this to say is, like, you guys choose your own path. But I also, living it out, I do see there are tensions that are created because of this culture that we create. I'm all for, like, women empowerment. I'm all for, like, go,
Yes, we are.
have a career, right? Go travel, right? Do all these things. But also, this is why it's so important to be in the word, involved in the
Mhm.
word, because when you are involved in the word, you are sensitive to the Holy Spirit that gives you gut feelings of knowing, like, this is probably not a good path for me to take, right? Um, me personally, will I receive a promotion? I probably will get another promotion in my life, but will I
Mm,
take it? I will tell you, I don't know. I don't know
mm,
if I would take a promotion because
yeah.
it's more work that takes me away from my family. And right now, it's like I make enough to be able to help financially. I feel edified, right, and fulfilled because I also am able to contribute and use my mind and talk to other adults. But I already am away from my family more than I want to, and so and that's something that me and my husband have spoken about, right? Because it's one of those things where I'm sensitive to that. I'm sensitive to that because I do want to be home and I do want to be present. And thankfully, I have a great partner where he does a lot of the dishes, y'all. He does a lot of the laundry. He's a great dad.
Mhm.
But there's a reason why biblically it was meant to be a certain way, right? No one can be a better mom to your kids than you. And
And
so,
that is so
um,
true. And I think that is the part of the story that gets left out, right? Because there are ladies that stay home and they do all this home duty. They are excellent
yes,
housewives and they get to fulfill those duties, God ordained, because it is part of the design of the woman. And I
yes,
do not want to say that that is the only design of the woman. It's not. The
right.
woman also is designed for wise counsel.
Mhm.
Throughout the Bible, women are used as examples of wise counsel to their husbands, to give them words of wisdom and support in their authoritative roles. But there is this conflict of where we have stay-at-home moms, and they get shamed for the
Yeah,
career women. They like, you don't want anything for yourself. You don't have
that's a
dreams,
toxic relationship right there.
right?
Like,
And you bringing toxicity into somebody's life. You being toxic, and then we have the housewives saying to the career women are like, you should be ashamed of yourself,
yeah.
somebody else is raising your kids. And no, ladies, there is different, unfortunately, because of the society that we live in, because of the environment that has been created
Hmm.
from different movements, right? The feminine movement has done so many great things, and like
Yeah.
I'm forever will be thankful for those great achievements, to be able to vote, to be able to have wise counsel, to give a wise word, to play roles, important roles in different sectors of society, has been very instrumental for women as a whole.
Hmm.
But also the feminine movement has created like a toxic environment within the family dynamic, within the marriage dynamic, that is very against God's design and word, because there is a wisdom in a woman staying home. The Bible says that the wise woman, she builds her house, right? She administered her house. And I will have to look up that verse. Let me take a minute right here.
Well, while you do that, I mean, it's so important. It's so important that we're in the word, ladies, because everything, it comes with a balance. Everything, right? And without being in tune with God's word, we're not being sensitive to the spirit. It's very hard to gauge where am I tipping too much, right? And so, like Liz Marie said, the feminist movement, I'm incredibly thankful for it too. I mean, voting rights, right? I mean, being able to work and contribute financially, and being able to have all these opportunities. I'm incredibly thankful for that. But everything is a balance. Too much of something, it can be detrimental, and the feminist movement is no different.
And I found it. It's Proverbs chapter 14, verse 1. It says, the wise woman builds her house, but the foolish puts it down with her hands. So there is like principles of being being an active role in the family, right? Let's say that you are a career woman, and part of your day is spent at the office, but there is still a demand for you to be present. You as the husband is called to be the head of the household. The woman is called to build and administer things in the household. So it is very important. So and like it's good to have these conversations about these different roles, right? Because like you say, it can bring confusion, and if they are left unchecked, and if nobody's talking about them, there is a lot of inner talk and not a lot of like wisdom through the Bible, of like filtering things through the Bible, and then it's a lot of confusion, and confusion brings conflict.
Because a lot of people will sweet talk. And the ladies, I hate to tell you, culture is just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse, right? The all of the different agendas being pushed, right? It is only going to get worse. So, like I said, and I'm saying it, and I feel conviction myself too, right? We need to dive into the word, because we need to be firm in what we believe and what the Bible says, and how we need to deal with certain situations. So I wanted to segue a little bit, because these are all relationships that, like, we know we probably need to cut out of our lives. But I want to touch on maybe a toxic work environment where you don't necessarily have the choice of walking away, at least right away, right? I think there's certain relationships that are in your life where, yes, the red flags are like, walk away. God's given you a chance to walk away. You know what I mean? And we need to, once again, have that Holy Spirit intuition, conscious, whatever you want to call it, and be like, all right, I need to cut this out. But I also believe that there's certain relationships that, God puts in front of you, where it's kind of your valley, right? Where it's part of your testimony, where you're going through something hard for a reason. And I wanted to share my personal story of my previous job, which was very similar to the job I have now. It actually worked for a competitor. And they wanted me to manage my team a certain way. And it just wasn't my management style. I'm very much a servant leader. I love to build a lot of trust with my team. And so I respectfully just stepped down and said, you guys can maybe hire someone else, but I'm going to just step down and be just part of the team. The person they hired, understandably, they didn't like that I previously managed the team. That was a little bit, I guess, threatening to her. And I knew that would be uncomfortable. And so I made a very adamant point because I was halfway already kind of looking for another job anyways, of saying, you know what, whatever they say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to make them feel as comfortable as possible. I'm not going to stir the pot, right? Because I know they're coming in an uncomfortable situation too. This person, for lack of a better word, made my life miserable. Absolutely miserable. They accused me of things on the job, right? Like I got sent to HR for things that weren't true. You know, I got to a point where I had no trust with her at all, my manager, and I had to sit next to them, and I didn't even feel comfortable coming to work. I mean, it was very hostile and very uncomfortable, to the point where I even considered just quitting, even though I didn't have another job. And you know, my husband and I spoke about it in depth, saying, you know, can we handle it, like financially, like how would we move things around? I had been applying for a long time and nothing was just coming my way. And I really just prayed to God, like, God, why? You know, like there's so many jobs out there and none of them were happening and coming my way. And it was just getting uglier and uglier and uglier at my job. And I specifically remember the final straw was right before 4th of July. And she accused me of like drinking on the job, guys, which was like so not the truth. I think we went to like Chipotle. I don't even know if they sell alcohol at Chipotle. But I mean, I tried to show them my receipt. Like I was like, I'll do a breathalyzer. Like I'll do whatever I can.
Do it all.
Yeah, I'm like, this is so not true. Like I just, whatever I can do to clear my name. Like this is not, and so it's just so silly. Like I can't even believe this is reality. And I mean, and they didn't want to hear anything. They just sent me home. They sent me home. And I remember I was going to be out for the next week for 4th of July. And, you know, my husband was like, you don't need to go back. You don't need to go back. And I was really struggling. And during that week off, one of the companies that I applied to, who had turned me down months before, randomly reached out to me and said, we hired a new, you know, head of sales. We've been, he has been told that his first order of business is to interview you and to see if he, you know, approves of you. And if so, like, we want to bring you on immediately. Increase in salary, right? I went from working in an office to exclusively at home. So now I can, you know, provide financially, but now, you know, my son can walk in whenever he wants. If he needs me to help him in the bathroom or help feed him or whatever it may be. And it made me realize that relationship was very toxic. That was about 6 months of incredibly toxic, stressful situation. But God was teeing me up for something so much greater, much greater. My job now, ladies, it's a dream job situation. You know, I'm home. I have a leadership team that believes in me. I have people that if my son or my daughter gets sick, you know, I don't even have to feel bad asking for permission. You know, it's why are you asking? Just take the time off, family first, right? And so it made me realize that sometimes we are in a tough situation because God is preparing you for what's to come.
That's true. And like I think this is like the perfect title for this, you know, just for this healing this topic this is the healing part. This is the understanding, like, yes, I am in a toxic place, but there can be healing. There can be a part of moving on and you know, like coming up with strategic ways of leaving that situation. Because like maybe for some of you guys, you can't just quit this job. You have a family to support. You might be a teen mom, you might be a single mom, or you might you know, you might be married, but both incomes are needed in this stage of your family's life. The thing is not to just go, but the thing is to start strategizing about an exit plan. And I think that is a key, you know, to just life in general, but also a very biblical key. Like one thing that I say it first. One thing that we don't do enough of is of strategizing, of recognizing, yes, this is a season that God has for me of growth or of like molding. He's also it's saying that my internet is not stable. Okay, there we go. Get stable internet. Get
Stabilize.
Stabilize. um but one thing that I have learned about seasons of like growth, because that's what it is. Like sometimes you have to pass through these toxic seasons to grow. Is that those seasons of growth, they show you how to strategize. They show you how to use your mind in different ways. They show you of like, hey, I don't like this management style. I don't think it's effective. I don't think that this management style get things done. And then you start thinking and strategizing and you start putting yourself in another position of when I become a manager, I'm going to be mindful of paying attention to people's feelings, paying attention to their lives outside of work, that they are members of a family, that they are husbands and wives and sisters, that they have people outside of the workplace. So that is one of the beautiful things about when God allows you to live through a season of toxicity. If you really like lean onto God, you said something key, like I started praying. Like if you find yourself in like a season of toxicity, of a toxic environment, start praying, because when you pray, that is an action. Action always have a reaction.
That's part of your strategy plan.
Yes, that is the first part of the strategy plan. Start praying about it and then start looking for other resources. Don't just stay in a place that's toxic. Talk to God, strategize with God, and He will open doors. But we have to take action. And a lot of times, that's not what we do. We just stay there until we die there. And God's intention is never for you to die in the place that is meant for you to grow in.
Yes. Yeah. So just a couple verses that I wanted to tie into today. So in avoiding those friendships that, give you that sweet talk and manipulation, there's a Bible verse in Proverbs 13:20 that says, become wise by walking with the wise, hang out with fools, and watch your life fall to pieces. And so, walking with those sweet talkers and manipulators, guys, your life is going to fall apart. It's not going to go the way you thought. Life's going to be hard, right? And ladies, life is hard already. Like, let's not make poor decisions in our lives that make it harder. You know what I mean?
Right.
Walk with ladies. What's that saying, right? Like, don't be the type of woman that like tries to knock another lady's crown off. Instead, when you see a crown that's tilted, you straighten it out, right?
Right. And we talked about that. Yes,
walk with people that are wise and uplift you, right? Because when you walk with the wise, you become wise. When they hold you accountable, right? I don't want to always be right. I don't, I mean, I know our flesh wants to be validated,
right.
our ego, but we're human too, and we're imperfect. And so I love that Bible verse, but I also love this Bible verse in Proverbs, also Proverbs 3, let's see, 5 through, I think 5 and 6. And this is actually the Bible verse I held on to when I was going through my really toxic situation at work, which is trust God from the bottom of your heart. Don't try to figure out everything on your own. Listen for God's voice in everything you do and everywhere you go. He is the one who will keep you on the right track. Don't assume that you know it all. And so, there's times where I had nothing I could do but trust God. And this is a verse that I held on with my work toxic environment. But even if you're in a toxic friendship, if you're in a toxic relationship, if you have a toxic family member, right? Um, Sometimes you do need to take time and put a strategic plan together to walk away or cut that relationship out, right? But even while you're putting that plan together, one thing you can do today is pray. Um, a theme we kept bringing up is be in the word, ladies. Be sensitive to the spirit. Dive in, because you need to be able to be sensitive to the spirit and how they're guiding you. Have that gut feeling, right? But also trust in God. Trust in God from the bottom of your heart, because it doesn't matter what you go through. He is always there, and he is always trying to speak to us. And sometimes it's a little whisper, and sometimes he's smacking us in the face with the red flag, right? But,
those red flags.
You know what I mean? If we're not in the word, then we're not sensitive to it. And let me tell you, our flesh and our ego and those sweet talkers, they'll take over very quickly.
No, I love it. I love it. And I think that's just a perfect conclusion to our conversation. And ladies, just be encouraged. Just remember, you belong to a sisterhood. You belong to a community of women. We understand we are here for each other. You were never meant to do this alone. So I encourage you to join the sisterhood, join the movement. A Pink Bow experience is an experience for you, designed for your needs. And we are just women here who love Christ, full of the Holy Spirit, and we just want us all to be God's, to become, the woman that God has designed for you to be. So stay encouraged. Remember, you are loved, you are safe, and you are wanted.
That's
Peace
right.
out, ladies.